Alright, so the last tissue unit that we're going to be covering in here are going to incorporate actually two different tissues, and that's going to be the muscle tissue and the nervous tissue. Now, basic structures of the muscles, the basic characteristics we're going to look at is that in any type of muscle, its job is to shorten. And when it shortens, we call that term contraction. When it contracts, it produces an outcome of movement. Now, there are three different types of muscles that we're going to find in the human body. Those are skeletal muscles, which are going to be the voluntary muscles that you control that's connected to your skeleton. You have smooth muscle, which is not under your control, so we call it involuntary. That is going to be found within inside the bottom part of our esophagus, all the way down through the digestive tract. Okay, what I say by the bottom part is at the very beginning you have some skeletal muscles. When you start to swallow, you elevate your tongue and you push that material back, and then you start the swallowing mechanism. But just inferior to that, you start smooth muscle. And the last one is only located in the heart, and that is the cardiac muscle. So looking at the three different types, this slide in particular, this slide here would be a great one to study for when you're looking at quizzes, because there's a number of questions I can ask you. When looking at the types of muscles, there are, again, as I said, are three types: skeletal, smooth, and cardiac. Of those three types, only one of those types are voluntary, knowing that the only one that is voluntary is that of the skeletal muscle. Okay? Of those three types of muscles, which are involuntary, another question you can have, are now both smooth and cardiac. Of those three types of muscles, which have striations? The two that have striations would be skeletal and cardiac. Does not is in smooth. Of those three types of muscles, which ones are attached in the heart? The cardiac. Of those three types of muscles, which one do I find in the digestive system? Smooth. Which one's attached to bones? Skeletal. Okay? One of the other things that we're going to start to see are these terms here, the intercalated discs. Intercalated discs are going to be found in the cardiac muscle, and that's showing you here. So if I'm looking at that muscle, that is this branch. Those branch are kind of like suture points, kind of help lock it in place. It does have striations, and it only has one nucleus per set of those intercalated discs. Where if I look at that of a skeletal muscle, they're multinucleated, so the nucleus is all over the place, but it still has the striations. So these two are similar that they have striations. However, this has more nucleuses than these do. And the other thing is that this one is really branched, so you can see a lot of open spacing in it. So skeletal muscle is not. It is packed in there, where cardiac muscle is highly branched and it has their intercalated discs. Last of the type of muscles is smooth, no striations, involuntary, found in the digestive tract. Its job is to do peristalsis. Peristalsis segmentation, really ultimately when it contracted, it helps propel food down in through the digestive tract, so eventually absorption of materials can happen, as well as an excretion of those unused and unwanted materials. The last of the tissue is nervous tissue. Nervous tissue is going to incorporate that of the neurons of the brain, spinal cord, and all the nerves that branch off of the brain and spinal cord, which we call the peripheral nerves. So just like we have a central vision, we have also peripheral view. The peripheral nervous system is everything that branches off down the middle, which is our brain and spinal cord. A basic cell structure is a neuron. And those neurons also have little helper cells called neuroglial cells. So here's an illustration down here, this neuroglial cell. What they do is they help support. Now there's a number of them in the nervous system we're going to talk about. One of them is going to fill in spaces, called an astrocyte. One of them is going to eat up any foreign debris, kind of like these little guys here, called a microglial. So if there's any bacteria or other things that are inside the cell, it's going to help break it down. A couple other ones are called Schwann cells in the peripheral nervous system, or oligodendrocytes in the central nervous system, and they are the ones that are going to create the what we call myelin, or insulation on the brain or the neurons. Okay, they're used for sensory reception, and ultimately this is the thing when materials are being sent through this, allows us the conduction of a nerve impulse. The nerve impulse is what's going to translate and transport everything that we want to have done. So it integrates, it coordinates, and it sends the information out to the rest of the body. So nervous system is also very vital.